Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
For anyone practicing Stoicism on a daily basis and constantly seeking to further their understanding of what it can do for them, it's inspiring to hear stories of modern Stoics who have used philosophy to manage a difficult situation. In his book How to Be a Stoic, Massimo Pigliucci presents the example of Andrew Overby, who has found Stoicism to be invaluable in overcoming depression. This is how Andrew came to understand his depression. Quote, "Depressed people are rather self-aware. In fact, they're too self-aware, and too negatively so, often deriding themselves for small infractions of their own idealized standards, putting themselves down for not being perfect, even in a world they recognize as being full of imperfections and human capital squandered. Part of depression is fixating on failures in the past, ruminating continually on past events or circumstances, and even drawing a kind of negative confidence from them. This type of thinking is antithetical to good outcomes at the present time, at least the vast majority of the time. It causes failure in the present, building a feedback loop whose hunger cannot be easily filled. One failure builds atop another, and now another." End quote. In response to this connection between negative thinking and depression, Andrew began focusing on key Stoic ideas, like Epictetus' teaching that things under our control include our decisions and behaviours, and things not under our control include the circumstances we find ourselves in, as well as other people's thoughts and actions. He also found Stoicism's emphasis on using adversity as a training ground for life to be a particularly helpful notion. Adopting this attitude, the Stoic starts to welcome difficult situations as the way towards self-improvement. Pigliucci makes an important point, however, about how philosophy needs to be an ongoing practice if we're to effectively change our thinking. Quote, "Of course, it's not like someone is depressed, reads lines in the discourses or the handbook that seem to speak to his situation, and then voila, everything is hunky-dory." But Andrew kept reading and reflecting. Indeed, the Stoics taught that it is with mindful repetition that we change our own behaviours and even our internal feelings, something confirmed by a number of modern psychotherapies that are effective for the treatment of depression and other conditions. End quote. This is why we do a little bit each day. This is why we keep reading and reflecting. This is why we adopt ideas like Epictetus' dichotomy of control and view adversity as a training ground for life. Because we know that, like Andrew, we can change our own behaviours and internal feelings and make progress on the path towards self-improvement. So in that spirit, I'd like to try to show how the biggest benefits of Stoicism can come from this regular practice built upon sound theory. As we've already touched on, it's the message that the ancient Stoics were constantly trying to hammer home. Progress requires training that isn't always comfortable, but the process is worth it. To show how it can be done, let's try to follow a simple real-world example. Consider this example problem. Imagine you've formed the following impression. I'm totally incapable of dealing with criticism. Other people think I'm completely useless. Their opinions destroy me. They're right. I am useless. Now that's quite a harsh impression, but let's start to work with it. Begin by creating distance between yourself and the impression you've formed. Referring to it as an impression, and not as a fact, is an important first step. From here we can specify, reason, and reframe. As Epictetus put it in his Enchiridion, practice then from the start to say to every harsh impression, you are an impression, and not at all the thing you appear to be. Then examine it and test it by these rules you have. So you specify your impression by removing emotional language from it. You describe it using the plainest, most boring language you can muster. So the example we talked about earlier becomes, other people judge me sometimes. I dislike criticism. I am useless. Think of it as filtering your thoughts. Next, you can apply calm reason to the assumptions you've made, and you throw away what is obviously false. Returning to the thought we previously filtered, the first part of it is, other people judge me sometimes. And we can assess the probability of that and say that yes, it's probably true. The second part is, I dislike criticism. You'll know yourself if that's true or false. And for most people, it's probably true. The third part, I am useless. That's false. The final theory step is to reframe your remaining impressions. We disregard the false one, focus on the first two. Other people judge me sometimes. We can reframe this as everyone judges. It's human nature. This is normal. And the second one, I dislike criticism. We can reframe this as when criticized, I can examine it. If it's constructive, I use it to improve. If not, I can disregard it, maybe even laugh at it. This is a sound theory that we can base a philosophical practice on. It's this theory that gets to the heart of the issue. Then you can take practical steps to test and improve your response to it. Practice starts small. You have a clearer picture of what you want to improve on. Now you can take time to think or write about how you can test your improvements. Taking our example, you might write some ideas on how to practice dealing with criticism. You select the best idea and conduct a small practical test. An example in this case might be asking for feedback on a piece of work you're proud of. Regardless of praise or criticism, you know you did your best. You can use the constructive responses to improve and discard the rest. Finally, you review how you did. Did your test help? If yes, how can you take it a step further? If no, what can you do better next time? Did you try too much too soon? Try applying this little theory to practice progression the next time you form a troubling impression. And remember, there's no impression you can't overcome. As Seneca put it in Book 2 of On Anger, nothing is so difficult, so far out of reach, that the human mind cannot conquer it and make it familiar with constant practice. No emotions are so fierce and independent that they cannot be tamed by training.